Whether getting money legally or illegally, we gotta do what we gotta do to survive, man. Yeah. Dedicated to all my hustlers, that's a product of their environment. Whether getting money legally or illegally, we gotta do what we gotta do to survive, man.
House dancing, breaking, and Spanish hustle, webber, and lofting all come from rocking. Rocking was the original New York dance. I've been doing these steps since I was a little kid, but it wasn't called house, it was called rocking. Rocking comes from the late 60s all the way to the early 70s. And we did all these steps. This is called Spanish hustle. We also did these. The turns, dips, into the dives, but that's from rocking. Been doing that since I was a kid. It went, this is the key. Rocking comes from the Lindy Hop and the Mambo. When these two dances came together, they added a dance called the Boogaloo. So they were going like this. Today it's called the Jap. Back in my time, it was called the rock. In my opinion, from what I saw, freestyle, what they call lofting, which was a dance they did at the loft, which you see a lot in house, a lot of ground moves, was very popular too, just like breaking. But I think a lot of b-boys that turned to the loft style incorporated a couple of moves that made it webber. And this is my opinion. One of the moves is when you see b-boys battle, and when they jump in the air and they grab the head of the opponent and put it on their nuts. That's why they call it huevo. Dale huevo means give the nuts. So they would say dale huevo. That was one of the main moves. It was a battle move at first that got into this lofting freestyle thing. Then it just turned into a dance. There's a social dance that was very easy. And then there's the more complex style of huevo, where the moves are twirling. It's a lot of circular moves, and you see it in house all the time. When the house dancer does all the rolls, then they go on the floor, then you see them go like this, and then dips, that's all huevo. The bridge, when you see them do the bridge, and then they twist, and then they do another bridge, that's huevo. A lot of huevo moves are in-house, but people just didn't know. The house dancers incorporated everything on top of what they did, because a lot of ex-b-boys and freestylers went into house. It's a direct connection. It split. The music was two styles. The 4x4 and the syncopation. This is hip-hop. The other was disco. They called it disco in the beginning, but eventually, they became two sounds. The James Brown sound, which sounded like this, and then the Philadelphia sound that sounded like this. What we call disco and house today came from Philadelphia. Those two distinct sounds changed the game of street dance in New York. But at one time, breaking and house, in my humble opinion, came right from rocking. From rocking, you could see the steps.
What's most of the dance that you saw first, that you said, you know, these are the dances that was there before other dances?
Oh, as far as the dancing, all the dances that were around at that time was only up rock, and disco was only hustle. There was no popping. There was no locking, all right? No break dancing. None of that was there at that time. It was only up rock and disco, hustle. That's it. Those are only two dances that were around. And it was nothing but up rock. Nothing else but up rock. Only Burns, all right? And all the people, all the crowd would listen to disco and dance hustle whenever they played disco music.
These two movements separated. Rocking went to disco, it went to lofting, freestyle, dale huevo, and then house. Rocking in this side went to breaking. See? But at one time, they were the same dance. So my point is, in a sense, I do house because I'm a rocker. And I know all the steps. So there.
The original word is not up rock. Let's get this straight. The original is rock. Rock what we do from back in the days. All right?
So you asked me earlier, what do I think happened to house dance, right? And nothing. And that's one of the problems, that we're having, is that it hasn't really evolved, right? But before we even talk about house dance itself, we got to actually talk about house music. You know what I'm saying to you? Because over the years, we've had a lot of influences from people around the world, when it comes to creating and producing house music, right? Because now it's kind of easy to get into the game of producing and so forth. Not that it's a bad thing, it's actually a great thing. And along with that, you have different influences, right? People from, Europe, from all parts of the world that are now, combining and mashing all these sounds, to create that house sound, right? Unfortunately, in the States, and now even in the clubs, you don't have a house music culture that has evolved. What I mean is that you have now the festivals which have sort of practically done away with the club culture, okay? Not necessarily the clubs themselves, but the culture of being inside of a club, where now you have everything, just people standing around looking and so forth and so on, right?
We're talking a lot here about festivals, but actually in the UK, where I've spent most of my life, and in Italy, festivals have killed club culture, pretty much. They pretty much wiped it out. There's still examples of strong clubs that exist, but even the really historically strong ones like Fabric are not having their best days. Maybe there's other reasons for that, but...
And the funk, that soul, right? That driving sound that is essentially house music has been removed from the nightclub, right? So now you have two extremes. You have EDM versus techno, right? Or tech.
I have a question, and as a promoter, festivals and branding and all that, what do you think can be done to sort of cross-pollinate the festivals more, where it's not so segregated, where you have EDM tent, which basically occupies 80% of the festival, and then, other kinds of music. Usually there's a techno tent. So it's become sort of two polar opposites. You either got extreme commercial, you have extreme underground. There's sort of like no middle of the road anymore. What do you think can organizers like yourself, promoters, festivals, or even clubs can do to address that?
Jan talked about the bubble. Really what we're looking at right now is an oversaturation in kind of one genre of music. Like within our genre, within like underground, tech house, techno, whatever you want to call it these days, there are too many parties. Like just flat out, there's too many parties. Even in, if you look at going to New York, or I was just staying in New York for 3 months at the beginning of the year. And on any given weekend, there was 50 to 60 RA parties that were like RA tech house parties or techno parties. And that's too many parties for any city or any scene to really keep up with. And that's, at the end of the day, burst the bubble. That's going to be the end of all of us.
The house that you hear, that people call, it's alternative house. It's alternative house culture because it's more tech, all right? It's not even house, it's just tech. People call it tech house, it's tech, right? Because if you have house in it, you gotta have that funk, you have to have that groove, right? You have to have the elements, that rhythm.
It's almost like, I don't want to say you have to be born with that rhythm, because I think it could be learned, but it's not that easy to learn.
Yeah. No.
House dances
they can't. A house dancer without this funk that I'm talking about is not house.
Yeah.
You can't do house. You can do rock without the funk and the groove, but you can't do house without the funk and the groove. I don't think so. I mean, you know, maybe a true house dancer will say, yeah, I've seen it done without groove. But the ones that I've seen, what groove, what funk, what style. I'm in love with house dancing. I mean, I don't do it because I just don't have time. When I do something, I like to get totally immersed, and I want to be, if not the best, one of the best. That's just the way everything I just give it my best. Yeah. If I can't, then I just sit down and I admire it. And I admire house. Yeah.
Most of the David Guetta shit now is more electro, techno.
Think about when David Guetta started off.
No, but I'm saying,
was he that way before?
No, he wasn't. But his
was Bob Sinclair?
No.
They was soulful. Everybody was soulful.
Yeah, exactly.
Avicii.
Exactly.
Avicii was soulful as hell.
But you know what it is? That's what them people that paying that money want to hear. That shit. That's always been huge. No matter how many years you go back.
They stepped it up and they took.
No, they ain't stepped it up, dude. They changed genres. That's what they did. That's what they did. I'm telling you. You just said it. Then they used to make soulful shit. They stopped doing that and went to other shit.
Now you have a situation where the music has sort of implemented all these different elements and created like different sounds. So now you have more deep, you have more clubhouse, you have more peak hour, you know, you have your after hours, you have everything. But house dance has stayed where it was.
And that's how you were considered, you know, the best. You know, how many steps you had. You know, what would you bring in that was new? My partner, Enoch Torres, who was probably the best rock dancer I ever saw, bar none. No one even came close. Even the guys we learned from, Mike, Danny, he surpassed all of them. And he just used to just come up with these steps all the time. He created styles. That's how good he was. Not just styles. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
You know, there was different, factions to rock. You know, there was the rock to just begun. Give it up and turn it loose. It's a new day. You know, that hard rock, you know, that you got down. But then when they came on with softer songs like La La Peace Song, It's a Shame by the Spinners, you know, the Four Tops had Don't Bring Back the Memories, you know, Music is the Message. You still danced. And you danced what we would call rock, but a softer rock, which, you know, as time went on, you know, as I came back, I realized that I think we were doing, you know, a portion of house. Like when we were doing soft rock, it was sort of like a house dancing. Because we still used the footsteps, we still, you know, went with the music. So it was a semblance of house, a very, you know, young form. I mean, because it's incredible. House dancing is just, I mean, I love it. I mean, I like watching it.
As the music changed, the dance developed other things like the boogaloo, and we turned that into the body rock. That's what we call rocking. From there, rocking took over. When the James Brown sound came on, and Give It Up, Turn It Loose, and those type of beats, the Mexican, Baby Huey's Listen to Me, Black Skin, Blue Eyed Boy by the Equals, these songs changed the game. Life and Death and G&A. These songs were the music that made the dancers act a little different.
So you don't have house dancers that can adapt to, you know, an opening set versus a peak hour set versus an after hour set, because it's totally different sounds. And a lot of the guys that dance house, they dance house the same way that they, you know, they dance every song the same way. And you can't, because you have to adapt to the different sounds, because, you know, if you're gonna play a harder set, that dance style has to now meet and complement that harder set. You see what I'm saying to you? You can't just have it where you sort of have that feminine, and there's nothing wrong with feminine, you need that, right? That softer side of house to like a more pumping clubhouse track.
Can't you see that I love nobody else? Nobody else. You get down, you get down. Can't you see that I love nobody else?
So you got to think about that, because it's unfortunate that we don't have a space now where people can go to the clubs and hear that middle space now, because it's essentially gone. That groove, the funk, it's not in the club. It's still being made, but it's just not being played.
Talking Heads made that transition out of the underground, made the cool records, then made the hit records, and now they're a classic band. Okay, Arcade Fire is not going to get there because they're not going to be allowed to make that transition. The major label system is narrowing and narrowing and narrowing and getting more bland, and the precocious indie world is getting more precocious, basically. But we're losing that spectrum across, because the indie world has gone into business for itself, and they're happy to have, you know, people sell 15,000 records, okay?
So we all like the Rolling Stones and the Who and the Beatles because, like, we had no other choice.
So I disagree.
Okay.
I disagree. If Cheap Trick was a new band now, they'd be huge. If the Beatles were a new band right now, they'd be huge. I'm sorry, the great bands are still going to get over. But they didn't have a world dragging on their fucking ankles to keep them in indie world. And there's a whole subculture now, that the blogging and all that, that's predicated on keeping those bands exactly where they are, because they're in that business. They're in the business of saying, no, 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 you know, you football player, don't come over here, we're in the cool club. Okay, I grew up with that same shit.
I'm trying to do what's going to be the next step that we can come up on. If I can come up on something, I'm trying to move to the next level. I'm not trying to stay in the same spot, because it's a dying industry. And the reason why it's a dying industry is because we don't have younger people that really know what house music is in the industry.
Unfortunately, you have a class, right, of people like the Puerto Ricans, you know, New York, you know, and the blacks, that they love that old stuff. There's nothing wrong. Listen, I'll be the first person to tell you, I'll be the first person to say, I love my classics, right? I always hold down the classics, but at the same time, there's time to move on too. Give that new stuff, because there's a lot of new stuff that is not being played because people are just stuck on that old style.
You know when they hear what they think house is? To be honest,
classic shit.
That's it. That's it.
You know why?
That's it.
Chicago is fucked up and it's stuck.
Exactly.
It's stuck in
Exactly.
1980.
Exactly.
It ain't gonna move.
Exactly.
No matter how much you try to motherfucker say, okay, we're gonna play some new shit by Kenny Dope, or let's play Teresa Griffin, or let's play somebody else. They're gonna play it for about a month. You know what? Month or two, and guess what? They're gonna be like, man, we don't want to hear that shit. You gotta give us some Donna Summer.
Even in Vegas, like when you go to a house party, if it's not that alternative stuff, right, that tech stuff, it's like this like fusion of, like, you know, funk, soul, disco, whatever, and it's like, it's just old style, you know, and like there's so much new music that's out there, but it's not being groomed.
We don't have younger people that really know what house music is in the industry. Most of them people are overseas that do know that, but in America, they don't really know. Terry, he plays his heart out on Sunday, and he plays a nice, you know, where the origins, I like to say, where we came from with the deeper sound. He plays that, but in the city of Chicago, there's not a whole lot of people who even know what that is, because you got so many people trying to relive Kenny Jason and Farley, Ron Hardy, and Frankie Knuckles regurgitating old music over and over again till the audience only know this old music, and it's a headache sometimes to go play. Kenny said when he plays a record, a lot of times the only way he gets started is he feed them a song and he feed off the crowd. It used to be a time when we didn't need them to feed off of nothing. We would feed off ourselves playing music, because now we got to see how, you know, how the crowd is fragmented. Is it fragmented with people who know music versus the commercial people? All these people all in one room. You got to figure out who they are.
House is a freestyle dance. All forms of freestyle borrow. Breaking was a freestyle dance, locking, everything was a freestyle dance that borrowed. But house has its own foundation that separates itself from breaking and other dances. What I will say is that the root to a lot of New York street dance from the late 60s up to funk and soul was rocking. Rocking is a dance that was part of all New York City. All of the boroughs in New York City did it. Brooklyn, Bronx, Manhattan, Queens, Staten Island. I can't, you know, I would say that there's steps that come from tap that b-boys and house dancers do, like the crossover. When you see the crossover, that's that's not even from house or breaking, that's from tap dance. And it probably comes from a dance before it.
Me, myself, and a few other people that danced in my era said the same thing, like my partner Papo and Enoch. I used to stay up all night watching Fred Astaire, Gene Kelly, the Nicholas Brothers, you know, and that's where I got some of my swagger from. And I would emulate some of the steps. Like, I'm gonna show you a step that I got from watching Fred Astaire. And people, a lot of people didn't do that in rocking, but it was like a tap dance step. And I changed it. You know, and then I started playing around with it. And that's when I started doing this shit, you know? And then when we started doing it, a lot of things I got from Dumb, from watching Dumb dance. Luckily for me, some of the best dancers in the city were from here, from the Bronx, like Rubber Band and Dee, who used to do some really nice spins, you know, and I love that style because it was the same thing I saw Fred Astaire doing and Gene Kelly, and the shit that they would do was elegant. Like when they would do a step, they were like, bah, you know, boom, 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 bah, you know, boom, boom, bah, see, bah, bah, boom, 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 bah, you know, and we added that to the rock steps that we used to do, you know, boom, boom, bah, boom, boom, bah, boom, bah, boom, boom, bah, boom, 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 bah, boom, you know, shit like that. You know, and stuff like boom, 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 bah, you know, locking and stuff like that, and then like pushing off, and then going into other steps. You know, Brooklyn, they kept that style. They still have that style. They made it better, you know, in some of the things they do. They made it better, but they still have the burning and the jerking that they do. You know, going down and stuff like that. You know, I did go down, but I used to do stuff like boom, boom, you know, stuff like that. That was from watching everybody do it, not just from one place or one source. Because nobody can ever say that. Whoever says that, oh, it got created here, doesn't know what they're talking about. We're trying to determine that now, as we speaking in the forums, and we're trying to get all the old timers, first generations, such as myself, to speak.
I would say that house is more advanced rocking than it is top rock. Top rock is more b-boy. Rocking is a little more club and outlaw. So there's the club aspect of rocking. You see a lot of in house. That's my opinion. You know, you're gonna need a panel with house dancers and rockers to make the case. But I think today, because the top rock battles, now you see a lot of house dancers entering top rock battles and doing really well, you know, and that's attributed to the fact that both dances, in my opinion, came from rocking, and that's how I feel about it. They both came from rocking. Rocking was the father of New York street dance, as far as I'm concerned, and that's my opinion.
Baby, 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 baby.
When I'm with you, my world feels so When you bite somebody's move and you can do everything they did, when it comes to battle, and you do their move even 20 times better and cleaner, what's gonna happen? And then you do your moves. That means if you had 20 moves and I had your 20 moves down pat, plus I have my 20 moves that you can't do, I got 40 moves now. You only got 20. I'm gonna do your 20 your way better. Then I'm gonna do my 20, and if you can't do my 20 better than me, you're gonna lose. There's a lot of guys right now who do a particular move, from one move to another move to another move, right? And now people are they watch a video and they do the same thing. So people know, wait a minute, we've seen this move from this such person. But that person who's doing it has got to remember, they learned that move, but now they got to add something into it to make it different. Because once you start doing it the same exact way, people don't respect, I guess, the way you're doing it. But if you have people who have different styles, it was always going to look different. It could be the same move, but different styles is going to be different, because a lot of up rockers, we do the same jerk, but my style is much different than everybody else's style. Because a lot of people, they just focus on one thing and they stay at one limit. And they wait like, well, I don't know who's going to teach me the next move. You shouldn't have to worry about who's going to teach the next move. You should be looking at all the dances. I don't care if it's jazz, ballet, I don't care what it is. Take what you see. You see a nice move, take it, learn that same move, and then throw it into a b-boy move or popping or rocking move, and you're going to see everybody's going to always be different. You're going to always outshine everybody else. Because when people always trying to be somebody else, they always got to wait till that person to move up before they can move up. You know, you want to be like the Bruce Lee. You want to learn everything. That's why, like Bruce Lee, learned all the martial arts. He learned every martial arts that was out there, and then he created his own, and he became different. And it was hard to beat a man like that, because everything you knew, he knew. Now he added something else. With the move that you knew, he advanced your move, your style, and now he outbeat you. So same thing with b-boy.
Trying
You know, I mean, that's what it is. You know, we're good.